ultimately what I think this sport is all about is I call it road therapy. It's something that when you go out and you twist that throttle, and it's a very zen moment where it's just you and the bike and the road. It's something that when you go out there and you just have yourself to yourself, you have a lot of thinking that you have to do, and that kind of helps you smooth out, all those rough edges that you can go out and take care of yourself.
It was a cold and rainy Saturday when I met him. Not a good day for motorcycling for most people, but as I walked around Fort Collins MotorSports in Fort Collins, Colorado, just looking at bikes, I met this genuinely friendly guy, Dan Cardonne, who, as I learned, is a kindred spirit, you might say. We got talking about our love for riding motorcycles, and then he walked me to the back of the shop where he showed me the bike he rode to work in the cold and in the rain. Yeah, I knew this was a guy I wanted to get to know. So you are in for a treat. The following is our conversation, Dan and I, about the sport that we love, riding motorcycles. I know that you'll enjoy it. Stay tuned. Recorded in beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Welcome to Peace, Love, Moto, the podcast for motorcyclists seeking that peaceful, easy feeling as we cruise through this life together. Are you ready? Let's go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm here with my new friend, Dan Cardonne. And we met through a motorcycle shop of all things, and that's where I seem to meet my favorite people. So welcome, Dan. So glad to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So here's how I met Dan, and he'll pick up the pieces from here. So it was a rainy Saturday, and if anybody who's following this podcast knows, I injured my hand back in February here with an accident here at home. Wasn't motorcycle related. But I injured my hand, and it's a rainy Saturday anyway, so I had nothing else to do, and my wife was working, so I go to motorcycle shops, and I thought I would go particularly to go check out the Royal Enfield specifically.
Yeah, the Royal Enfields. Yeah, the 350 Hunter.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to go see. So I walked in the door and I met Dan, and he was the one who just gave me the spiel on all this stuff and told me about the warranty that's available or comes with it, right? All this.
Yeah, roadside assistance. It's crazy. 3-year warranty. Yeah. The Enfields are great.
Well, I certainly enjoyed talking about the bikes, but then I told you about the podcast, and I told you about this crazy idea that I've had, and I gave you my card. And then you took me outside to the back to show me your bike that you had
in the rain.
And I thought, once again, this is another guy I'm going to like to hang out with. If he rides his motorcycle in the rain, like it says in the Billy Joel song, "Even rode my motorcycle in the rain." If it's somebody like that, I'm going to enjoy hanging out with this guy. So I invited Dan I begged Dan to be part of this podcast and visit with us today, and I'm so glad you're here. So thanks.
Thanks for having me, Ron. No worries. You're a good man.
Yeah. Well, again, I want to plug Fort Collins MotorSports, Fort Collins, Colorado, and a great shop with a wonderful brand new bikes there. What brands of bikes do you sell there, Dan?
We got a little bit of everything. I mean, we're primarily an Indian motor dealership, but on the used side, everything that we got there is like new. So, I mean, come down, check it out. It's a really cool place. We got everything from sport bikes to dual sports to Harley Davidsons to Yamahas that want to be Harley Davidsons. We got a little bit of everything. Come down, check it out.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely be back too. But again, I just I love the look of the shop. It's a really good looking place. Great location, right on the highway there in Fort Collins, Colorado. So everybody drop by. So Dan, how did you get started in all this stuff? What's your first experience with a motorcycle anyway?
Well, my first experience with a motorcycle, I was about 3-4 years old, and my uncle told me not to touch the hot exhaust on the motorcycle. And sure enough, I did. And that's one of my first memories. But, you go down the road a couple years and, you get a little bit older and you see these motorcycles going by and that's super cool. And, I was about 21, 22 years old. And, I remember watching the Top Gun movie back in the 1980s, as my kids would say.
Yeah.
And, I really wanted to get into the sport. And so for me, I got myself a GPZ 750. And, and Tom Cruise had a 900R. But, I got myself that GPZ. It was a cheap bike. I was able to work on it. I was able to wrench on it. I was able to drive it. And I was able to go out and actually, do what I wanted to do on it and have, a fun experience. And that's ultimately what I think this sport is all about. I call it road therapy. It's something that when, you go out and you twist that throttle, and it's a very zen moment where it's just you and the bike and the road. And, I moved on from that bike, obviously, but it's something that when you go out there and you just have yourself to yourself, you have a lot of thinking that you have to do. And that kind of helps you smooth out, all those rough edges that you can go out and take care of yourself. Or it's something that, if you got something going on at home, or if you got a project that's going on, it's really irking you, you can get out on the motorcycle and just kind of figure out how to figure it out. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, Dan. You're causing me some trouble on my side, I got to tell you, because I had a whole page here of different questions relating to all that, and you've answered all of them right there about the pure, and that's what the whole podcast is about. And a lot of people don't get it, right? But it's about what motorcycling does for some of us, where we can find what I call peace of mind that everybody's looking for. And some people maybe find it through sailing. Some people find it through gardening or whatever, reading a book. But you and me find it on two wheels out on the road.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's something that, if you find it through yoga, great. I can tell you can find the same experience on two wheels. And that's why you find a lot of people out there on two wheels, because they get home and they have a big smile on their face at the end of the day. And it's something that I feel that a lot of people should. If you got something going on in your life, and go get yourself a motorcycle. If it's $50 a month or $100 a month, you know what I mean. It's worth it. It's almost I don't want to say better than therapy, but like some people need therapy. They need to sit in front of somebody. Some people need to go out and they need to ride a motorcycle, and that for me is just a little bit of elegance, in the world.
You're quoting directly from Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves. There is a video clip out there for the listeners. I suggest you go out there and look. Do a search on YouTube for Keanu Reeves motorcycle therapy. I think something like that. Where Keanu Reeves is as serious as anything, and he says, "I need to ride it." Something to the effect, "It helps me cope with life." He basically tells you that that's my therapy. If I'm not on a motorcycle, I'm not feeling good. And he tells you that if you got to get out, you're going to feel good. That's the basis of it. Absolutely. That's awesome. So you're in a unique position that I'm not in, and a lot of people are not in, but you're in a unique position because you got people walking in the door, men and women who may be testing the water, right? For some reason they think, I need a bike. So do you mind sharing with the listeners, what's that like? What do you see and how does that make you feel?
Oh, no, absolutely. That's a great question, because I absolutely love that first-time rider. That first-time rider, for me, it always takes me back to that first time that I rode a Ninja 600 down an alleyway. A buddy of mine, Dustin, was like, "Oh, try this out." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I will." And it just gives me goosebumps, because when you get that first-time rider, you can feel that same emotion. It goes through me. It goes through them. They're nervous. They're a little bit on edge. They're like, "Well, this is something that I should do. Is it safe? Is it dangerous? Should I be doing this?" And my answer to that question is always yes, because you should always live life to the fullest. Because if we have one body, one mind, if it's one lifetime that we lived through and that's all that you can remember, you might as well have a great time while you're doing it. So when I got that first-time rider that comes out to me and says, hey, Dan, what do I need? Because I have 20 years of bike experience, and I'm going to make sure that they're going to get on their absolute best ride that they can for what their experience level is. So when they go, hey, I've been riding dirt bikes for a long time, and I might put them on a bigger bike. I've never ridden a bike before, Dan. Okay, well, I'm going to put you on a little bit smaller bike. Learn to ride the bike. Don't let the bike ride you, because we all want to have a good experience in this motorcycle world. And so for me, what it is getting the right rider for the right motorcycle, because the bike will always call you. No matter what, you sit on a bike, you go, this is it. Or you'll sit on the bike and you go, this is not it. And you can feel that with that first-time rider. And so what you do is that you make sure that they're on the right ride. And if you don't have equipment or gear, I'm going to make sure that you have it. You know, we'll put it on the house no matter what. Like, we'll figure something out. But that first-time rider, you get goosebumps because they're getting that same feeling of freedom and that road therapy, that like, wow, I have freedom. I can get out there and do what I need to do, you know? So that's what I love about first-time riders. They always have that little crystal sparkle in their eye that they, know something that other people don't, which, I think it's the truth. I really do think that first-time rider can get out there, have a good time, enjoy themselves, but also have a little bit of that freedom, which a lot of people need in this world.
Oh, man. You just knocked it out of the ballpark again there. I believe I hear you say that you share the joy that they are and the excitement that they get.
100%.
Right back to you, right?
100%. Every single time I get a new rider in, it's that first time feeling of like true freedom, as if you were a kid again. You're out on your bicycle and you're going down to the lake, and you're just having that freedom of being out. And when you get older, there seems to be this kind of like drudgery of just life that just kind of seems to want to knock you down. But when you get on a motorcycle, it picks you right back up.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. I've been paying more attention since I started this podcast, paying more attention to the philosophy-related articles and YouTube videos about the philosophy of riding. And that seems to be echoed over and over again. It was a YouTube that I saw just this past week. It was a lady describing how the sheer, how would you put it, the posture that you form by riding a motorcycle, 2 hands out, 2 feet down, and that posture alone, moving down the road. She was talking about all the science behind it, the bioscience of what it does to your body, to your adrenaline, to your brain, and all this. Just having that posture, as opposed to sitting on the couch with your arms crossed and your legs crossed, where that does other things, even physiologically. I thought that was really interesting. So it seems like there's even science behind all this.
Oh, it's a full body, full contact sport. You have to be in that moment. You have to be paying attention to what's going on. You have to be in that moment. And it's very Zen-like. It's very yoga-like. I don't do yoga, but like, I know what that feeling is of being, you have to be in that moment. There's no past, there's no future. There's that moment. Because in that moment, if you're not paying attention, you could crash. Yeah. You could hurt yourself. But if you're in that moment, you could be having a wonderful time going out on the peak-to-peak highway and enjoying a beautiful scenery and just kind of enjoying that moment.
Yeah. You make me think about, there was a podcast that I did a couple of months ago, I think it was. I called it Risk Management. And it was the idea that, what we're doing out there is risky. We've got nothing around us except the armor that we're wearing, essentially. Our feet are just a few inches from the ground. When it gets cold, we feel cold. When it's hot, we feel hot. and all of that. But I called it risk management because, you know, the importance, I'll just throw this out. I mentioned it a number of times, the importance of wearing a helmet, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Full gear. It's a full contact sport. It's a full contact sport.
That's what I picked up on you saying. Yeah. So there is definitely that piece of it. But and we hear, you know, along that line, we hear it all the time. Like, you know, oh, my friend is paralyzed now, and so forth. And I don't doubt that at all. I don't discount that at all. And I know it's absolutely real. But at the same time, just like what you're saying, what motorcycling has done for me personally since I was 11 years old, I go, and I'm about to turn 61, so 50 years of riding. When I go out for a ride today, I go back to my 11-year-old self. I'm going down this old dirt road, just bouncing along on a little bitty mini bike, and I'm back again. And somehow...
And you can get in a car. You can get in a car, and you can do the same thing to yourself. I mean, driving is a full contact sport.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I'm only here that I can remember once, so I'm going to enjoy it while I'm here. So you know what I mean? Do dangerous things safely. That's what I preach to my children, and that's what I preach to people around me. Do dangerous things safely. Because you know what? If you're sitting on the couch and you get your arms folded and you're watching YouTube and the internet, the world's passing you by. We're still spinning around this earth at, 1,000 miles per hour. You might as well enjoy it while you're here. Go out and do something. And what that something for me is riding a bike.
Yeah.
That for me, I could have a crappy day at work, excuse my language, but like I could still go out after work, ride my bike home, twist the throttle, feel that motor underneath me and go.
Yeah.
And that for me is road therapy. That for me is something that I will preach to the riders that come in that are new riders, the riders that come in that think they're good riders, the riders that come in that are good riders, because some people deserve bigger bikes, faster throttle. Some people need to be on the lower end. But, for me, it's road therapy. It's just getting out and enjoying yourself.
Absolutely. Do you mind sharing like a personal experience that you've had on the road? Have you met a stranger or met another a motorcycle rider that was especially interesting, or someplace that you've been that was just like, wow, this is just pretty amazing?
Well, I mean, I've been around a lot of bike riders. I've been around guys that have built bikes from the ground up. And for me, I think the most amazing thing, like I've done 193 miles an hour. I've gone as fast as you can go. I you know what I mean? Like I think in the motorcycle world, the most interesting person that I could really put my finger on at this moment is somebody that has taken nothing, a jig, and built a motorcycle from the ground up. And I think that's really interesting because you're taking nothing and you're making something out of it. And you're taking raw metal and pieces and parts and motors and hydraulics, and I think that's really cool to build something from nothing. And that's what I have kind of feel is something that is very interesting to me, to watch guys build motorcycles from scratch, because you're taking raw elements and you're turning it into a literal living object that has, every motorcycle has its own soul. Every motorcycle has its own way of being. Every motorcycle that you rides a little different, even though it's the same exact bike. And to watch a buddy of mine, Taylor, who I work with, take a piece of basically nothing and turn it into a motorcycle, I think is a very interesting human accomplishment, because you've now taken raw elements from scratch, iron, and you've melted it and molded it into something that can transport you and help you get through your world in a more therapeutic way. And like, how cool is that? So, yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth. How cool is that? Yeah, that is really cool. Well, speaking of cool, Dan, you're a cool guy.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I knew it from the minute I saw you. For a second, I was looking at one of those Royal Enfields, and you started telling me about it, and I thought, this is a nice guy. So, especially, your willingness to be on the podcast and share today. It's been great. So,
no, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Well, once again, I'm overwhelmed by the positive spirit of motorcycle riders that we meet along the way. Dan Cardonne is a great example of a motorcycling professional who not only has a great deal of experience, but someone who genuinely cares about those who want to learn more about this passion of ours of riding motorcycles. So contact Dan at Fort Collins MotorSports in Fort Collins, Colorado. The website is fortcollinsmotorsports.com, and their number is 970-498-8858. And thank you all for listening. Until we visit again, I wish you peace. I wish you love.